People who have worked the drive-thru, what's the weirdest thing you've seen in someone's car? Only worked drive-thru for a year, but the weirdest thing I saw was an alpaca in a minivan. They asked at the window if they could order some apple slices for the alpaca. I just gave them 2 packs on the house. My gym teacher, drunk. He started eating the tacos at the drive-thru window. He was there for over 5 minutes, just eating. I saw him the next day in school. We both acted like nothing happened. Had a guy consistently come through the drive-thru with his penis out and showing the young girls running the windows. He would always order the same thing, large mellow yellow no ice, always on a Sunday, and always wearing military fatigues. Then he stopped showing up for a bit. We called him Private Peters as our little sign to call the cops if he showed up again. A month later we get an order for a large mellow yellow no ice, so I decide to take over the window because had a 16-year-old running cash, and sure enough he hands me his money with his dick in his other hand. We convinced the car in front of him to stay in the lane, and we called the popo. He got suspicious and left, but they caught him and was charged. Someone pulled a bop on my brother because the salsa containers weren't completely full. You can get as many as you want for no extra charge. A car pulls up, and all 4 people are just completely naked, just casually chilling. I was working the drive-thru at Burger King in a snowstorm. Driver orders a Coke with no ice. When I hand them the Coke, they empty it a bit, break off a couple icicles hanging from the car, put in the Coke, and drive off without saying a word. Had a customer come through with a giant grandfather clock in the back seat. The thing was so huge it was sticking out the side window, which just so happened to be on the left side of the car, which meant dude couldn't get close enough to the window to reach his food, and had to step out, cursing the whole time. Not seen, but I heard a bing bong taking place over the headset. It was a location open 24/7, so we had to reset the tills for 10 minutes every evening at 11 PM, so people would just sit in their car and wait. Most people don't realize that we could hear everything. The speakers don't turn off while the vehicle is there. Dude had a full-on sex doll dressed up in his passenger seat. Sunglasses, dress, and even a hat. I couldn't even tell it was fake until I asked for their order. Coworker and I looked at each other simultaneously and we both said, "Was that a Bing doll?" This is in a wealthy area of my city as well, so it was definitely a first. 2 guys were hotboxing and decided to come to the drive-thru. They did not stop smoking, even when they pulled up to the window. I swear a cloud of smoke rolled out the window when they lowered it to pay. They offered me a hit and I politely declined. Edit. For everyone asking, this was in mid-Michigan in 2005-ish. The entire car was filled with trash. Like legitimately up to ceiling in the back seat and up to shoulder height in the passenger seat. I was so stunned I nearly forgot to give them their food. I used to see someone come through with a lifelike mannequin in their passenger seat. I asked about it, and turns out they did it to use the commuter lanes on the highway. You must have more than 1 person in the car or cop a fine. A woman drinking a tall boy Budweiser. It was 5:30 in the morning at a Starbucks. There's also a guy that takes his 3 dogs for rides. They ride in buckled seats and wear goggles, so the wind doesn't hurt their eyes. Edit to at, the lady drinking the beer was driving. Don't bopping drink and drive, guys. The driver had a comically large toy in the passenger seat. He buckled it in and put a hat on it. Either the guy sitting with a dog in his passenger seat and a coyote and a deer chilling in the back, or the woman wearing just a bra, but that one is more traumatizing. A baby goat curled up on the passenger side in the front seat. Apparently the woman's friend was giving away one and she knew if she asked her husband to take his truck to pick it up he'd have refused. She was confident he'd given once he saw the little guy, who was outrageously cute, just not if he had to go and get it and think it over, since according to her he's tired of me bringing animals home. I gave her a free bag of fries and still sometimes wonder how that turned out. Do you just drive in and tell your husband, honey, don't get mad, but wait until you see? Hubs, wait, is that a goat in the car? My little sister used to work at a local Wendy's. A woman came through the drive-thru one day with either a pet or a service animal. That animal happened to be a monkey. One time I was with my mom when she went through a drive-thru. The car stalled at the window and wouldn't start. I looked at her and said, "So, wait for the food and then push?" She said yes. They came to the window with our order. We got everything situated. Then I hopped out and started pushing the car. It was a big boat of an Oldsmobile, so I had to push it in a way that made it look like I was sitting on the back bumper. The looks on the faces of the people in the window as I passed by were pretty darn funny. We ended up going inside the restaurant to wait for someone to pick us up. Someone who was working the drive-thru told us we could wait there as long as we needed to, and they'd be happy to get us cups for the soda fountain. They checked on us more than once, and we were only there for maybe half an hour. I grew up in a family that often didn't have a vehicle, and when we did have one, it usually left us stranded on a regular basis. This was just a frustrating inconvenience, and the folks working in the restaurant were so nice and felt so bad for us. We were just happy to have a ride on the way and a building to wait in. This girl used to come through with like 3 dogs. I finally asked her, "Do you have to feed these beasts?" And she explained that she just walks and grooms them. Well, one day she came through the drive-thru with like 15 dogs, and she screams through the intercom my business finally took off and got a bunch of chicken tacos for them. Come to think of it, I think she may have been trying to flirt with me. Darn. I was working a McDonald's drive-thru in a small town in Michigan. This truck goes through, pays and pulls forward to get its meal. Then a chicken jumps out of the back. I yell for the next car in line to stop, but she looks confused and ends up running over the chicken. It's not dead, but it's a wreck. She looks at me, and we are both in tears. She says she has too, and I say no. She puts it on reverse and backs over the chicken again. Another employees had to get a shovel and scoop up the dead chicken from the drive-thru. There was this really cute blonde girl that would always come through the drive-thru naked on Saturday nights. Every now and then she would have another friend with her. We always knew when it was her by the constant giggles coming from her car as she ordered. We always had weird customers, being it was the world's largest McDonald's located in Orlando, Florida. An order for 88 Big Macs or 120 cheeseburgers was not out of the ordinary though. Not sure if it counts as something weird, but I found out, after marrying my wife, that she would go to a certain Chick-fil-A location drive-thru almost every day before work. Turned out during the time she was going there I was working there, and I ran the drive-thru 5 to 6 days a week, and strictly in the mornings. So for about a year I saw my wife almost every day, before I even met her, and didn't realize it till after being with her for years. These 2 ladies with tons of tattoos and cigarettes came through, got their 2 McChickens, and as they were pulling away I saw there were balloons just crammed into the entire back half of the car. Just filled to the brim with balloons. Another time I was helping these 2 teen boys when I heard a quack from the back seat. "That's the duck," one of them told me, followed by a honk from the back. "And that's the goose." It's worth noting that they had just left a football game and come straight to the drive-thru, so Lord only knows where the duck and goose were before that. I worked at Domino's, and one lady used a hand crocheted blanket to keep her pizzas warm. Kept the blanket in the front seat and draped it over the boxes. I crochet, so I know how much work went into that blanket. There was this woman that would come through and get a hot chocolate every day. Her name was Mary. Mary was an older gal in her 70s, drove an early 90s Lincoln, usually had some old tunes playing, and weighed 60 pounds, if that. She was always so happy and so nice. I always gave her drinks for free, because it was always such a treat to see her, and she was just so nice. One other feature I remember is she always rocked suspenders and a random colored fedora every day. I think she reminded me of Ms. Frizzle after she retires. One day, she comes through and orders her usual. I said, "Mary, why are you always in such a good mood? What's your secret?" She smiles and waves me closer. I lean out of the drive-thru window and she says, really good stuff." She winks at me, turns her radio up, and cruises out of the parking lot. Mary is my hero. A 50-year-old man with Down syndrome playing with his willy in the passenger seat while his aide picked up his meds. He made eye contact with me the entire time. Unfortunately there's no climax to this story, no pun intended. Closed the window and didn't say a word. There's a time and place for everything, but gotta do what ya gotta do I guess. This dude pulled up and his girlfriend or whatever was almost entirely naked on the seat next to him, sleeping. When he pulled up, he saw my shocked expression, pulled her thin jacket, the only thing on her body besides the seatbelt, to cover her grapes, and asked for some ketchup. He was shockingly casual. On Christmas Eve this guy comes through, and I'm taking his money, when he asks if I want to see his stump. I wasn't really thinking and said sure. The guy opens his car door and reveals that his left leg was amputated from the knee down. Again, without thinking I asked him if he was alright. He said he was, and while closing his door he mentioned that he needed to be careful when getting out because he has fallen on his face before. I worked at McDonald's, saw some pretty odd stuff to be fair. One dude had dyed his mohawk blue, had a parrot, and ordered like it was nothing. Had some other woman just sat there drinking a bottle of vodka at the wheel at like 11 PM. I couldn't do anything about it, so I just sent her down to the next window